Hey, good afternoon, everyone. This is Justin with Court Reserve. So excited to be on with you guys today. As Ashley mentioned, the focus of today's webinar is really going to be around the practical financial tools for the people who are using the system on a day-to-day basis. We're going to be looking at specific member accounts and the things that I've seen come up time again with different clients that we have, questions around fees, payments, refunds, reverts, all of those different things in the system, and some really practical examples that I hope you guys can take away. Whether you are someone who's fairly new to the software and still just trying to get the financials under your belt, all the way up until I've got a few examples at the end that I just collected from some of our more experienced users this week. And kind of recreated a generic version of them. So very excited to jump in with you guys today. So where I'm going to start is from the members billing tab on a member's account. I find that that is usually the best place to look to solve any kind of questions around financials and just understand how Court Reserve works on that front. So I'm going to pull up a member account here by just searching them. And I'm going to go to their billing tab. And I'm going to go to the transactions tab. Today, we're primarily going to be looking at the all transactions tab here. But as you can see, there's a couple other ones that will just kind of simplify your view of a member's account. You've got unpaid fees, paid fees, one just for payments, one just for manual balance adjustments that have been done. And if you are using the batch billing feature in Court Reserve, you will also have an invoices tab and a generate invoices button. We won't be covering too much of batch billing specifically today, but that is where those live. So I'm going to start off by talking about the three different sorts of transactions that you are going to see when you look at a member account in Court Reserve. The most basic one that we're going to touch on first is the fee, right? So when you look at a members transactions list, you're probably going to see a lot of fees. And fees are Court Reserve's way of saying, this member owes us money for some good or service, right? So whenever I put a fee on a member's account, I should immediately see that reflected in the member's balance. So we can see Noah Elliott, he signed up for a platinum membership with us. I see a membership fee on his account, and I see that reflected as a debit balance on the account. So whenever I'm looking at a member's balance, if it's green and I don't see any other marks around it, that's a debit balance. That's saying Noah owes us $75. A little bit later, we're going to be looking at credit balances, which is where the member actually has credit with us. And we're saying, that member has X amount of credit with us to pay for goods and services. And when they have that, it will show up as yellow instead of green, and it will also have parentheses around it. So you can keep a lookout for that. But let's talk about fees for just a second. Right now, this is an unpaid fee on the account. And if you want to make an adjustment to an unpaid fee, there's two different things that you can do to start off before any payments come into the picture. The first one is going to be, I can always edit the amount that is owed for a fee before it's paid. So let's say that we assign this membership dues, but we've actually raised our pricing a little bit. And so this came in as $75, but it should have been $80. I can click on the actual amount to pay of the fee, and I should be able to get an override fee amount window here. And I can move this up or down. Let's move it up to 80, and I can save changes. And now once the system saves these changes, I'm going to see a little overridden message here and tell me what the initial fee was, but I've now moved the fee up to $80. If I then refresh the page, I'm going to see that balance updated. So if you ever make a change to a fee or any other member financial account on the back end, just be aware that you might need to refresh your page in order to see the balance update. So that's the first adjustment that I can do to a fee. The second thing that I can do, which you probably are familiar with, is void a fee. Voiding is, I've also heard some people say, waive a fee. It's saying this member no longer owes me for this fee, right? So when a member no longer owes you for the fee and they haven't paid it, I can just void it and the fee will disappear. Voiding a fee will never cancel the good or service, the clinic or the membership that they signed up for. It's just saying they don't owe the money for it anymore. So in this example, we've got Noah. Right now, his membership is saying that he's expired because he hasn't paid for his membership dues yet. But if I click on void and hit save changes, now what that's going to do is it's actually going to say Noah no longer owes that money and he's active. So we've basically comped Noah's membership at that point. So if you ever need to just compensate someone for a free membership, that's the way to do it. You can just find the membership fee and void it, and then the member should become active. So that's fees. Let's talk about a couple different ways you might want to put fees on an account. So the first most basic way, if you just need a one-time miscellaneous fee onto a player's account, is going to be the adjust balance refund button. And we have an adjustment type called miscellaneous fee and debit. You can see here that we've set up revenue categories in this test account. So you can assign a revenue category to a miscellaneous fee you need to put onto the account. So maybe it's a late fee for something. We could put that in there and say it's going to be a $15 charge. I can put a tax rate on it if I want to, and then I am required to put a note. I can save changes, and that's going to post the fee to an account. I see that fee there. There's also some options in Court Reserve for posting fees to multiple member accounts at the same time, if you have something like capital dues, and even setting up recurring fee schedules. I'm not going to go into too much detail on setting up both of those. We have some great articles in our knowledge base. If you want to check it out, you can just look up post fees or post recurring fees. But when we're talking about setting up a lot of different fees across our entire membership, if you need to do that, those are the tools to use. And you can find them underneath transactions, post fees, and post recurring fees. All right, so that's fees. Let's now take a look at the next type of transaction that you're going to see in conjunction with fees, which is going to be payments. So I'm going to pull up another member account here and take a look. So here we've got a member, Blake Steen, who's got a lot of unpaid fees on his account, and we want to pay them. So I can always obviously go to each individual transaction here and hit pay. And that's going to bring up a screen where I can pay for the member. I can select the payment type. If they have a payment profile on file, that's going to show up at the top here. So I'll be able to see any saved credit card profiles or e-check profiles that they've saved, and I can charge the member directly from there. However, if I've got a lot of fees, I don't have to go one by one and pay all of them, especially if it's, you're going to charge a credit card. If the member's got 20 different fees, you don't want to make 20 different credit card charges. We can simplify it by just using this payment button that sits right next to their balance. So if I hit payment, now you can see it's automatically brought all of the different fees into this one single transaction and put the transaction total in the payment amount here. And I can select the payment type from there. I can put in a credit card number and charge them all at the same time. I can also choose to only do a partial payment for some of this. So let's say, Blake's got a balance of $14.11-ish right now. Let's say that he wants to pay just 600 of that flat right now. I can just put in that payment amount manually here. You'll see when I did that, it actually took away all of these applied amounts here. And it's basically asking me, hey, how do you want to apply this money to these different fees? If I just want it to automatically apply, I can hit auto apply, and it's going to apply from the oldest fees to the newest fees. So you can see this would completely pay this first fee. It would partially pay the second fee, and then it would leave these three newest fees alone. So that's how you can issue a partial payment on an amount, a partial amount payment on an account as well. So let's actually go in and mark one of these as paid right now. So let's mark one of these round robins as paid. I'm going to mark it as paid by cash. So obviously this doesn't actually create any kind of online transaction in the system. It's just basically an honor system where an admin can say, yes, they did pay me in cash. Some people also use those payment types of cash or other for things like Venmo, if that's something that you allow at your front desk. So we've got a payment in here, and you can see under the transaction type, instead of showing as fee, it's showing as a payment. So the payment, I can see which fees it's linked to by going over to the right side here and going to transaction links. I click on transaction links, I'm able to see exactly what this payment paid for. This is also true if I use the payment button and I pay for multiple fees with one payment. So let's talk about the next type of adjustment that we could do in the system. So if a void is canceling out a fee, then a revert is going to cancel out or undo a payment. So as soon as a payment goes in the system like this, I'm going to see this arrow over here next to the transaction links for revert payment, okay? Anytime I hit revert, that's basically saying wherever the money originally came from, I'm going to send it back, and I'm going to leave the fee in an unpaid state as if it hadn't been paid. So anytime you make a mistake with a payment, like let's say I marked it as paid by cash and that was a mistake. I meant to mark it as paid by check and put in a check number. I can hit revert payment on this. And then once this has reverted, the fee is still going to be on the account as unpaid. And you'll see this is communicated in the window right here. Following transactions are going to be marked as unpaid. So I'm going to get a note saying the payment was reverted. It was originally for $10, but that $10 fee is now back on the account. Okay, so that's important to note. If I want to completely get rid of that fee, I can now go in there and void it right now. But there's usually a better way to do this, which brings us to refunds. So a refund in court reserve, you can think of as a revert, which we just did, where it's undoing the payment step, and it's also voiding the fee, saying this member no longer owes me for this fee. So you can think of a refund as a revert plus a void. Refunds also have one other advantage, which is that with a revert, you're always going to send the payment back to the same location that it came from. So if it's a credit card payment and I revert it, it's always going back to the credit card. But if I choose a refund, now I no longer just have the option of the credit card. I can also refund it to the balance or mark it as a cash refund. So it's a little bit more of a flexible option. Okay, so let's go to a new member account and show this a little bit. I go to David Keeler's account here. So David Keeler had some contract time, okay? And let's say that the amount that we charged him for was incorrect. We charged him for $1,500, but we actually only needed to charge him for $1,200. Now we need to send $300 back to his card. Can we do that? And how do we do that? So what I would do in this case is I would go to adjust balance refund here, and under adjustment type, I'm going to want to select refund a fee. Now, one mistake I see people make here quite a bit is they will choose payment credit and then try to pick credit card as the adjustment method. This is not going to refund David. This is actually going to charge David and load more money onto his court reserve account, which is not what we want to do here. So whenever you're wanting to send money back to a member, specifically a member's credit card, make sure you always see the word refund in something that you're doing. So you can see my adjustment type is refund a fee. And then under the transactions that I'm looking at, there's just one fee. I'm going to click the golden refund button. And now when I get to this refund screen, again, it's really critical under the refund destination that I double check where this refund is going and for how much. So in this case, I do want to send it back to David's credit card, but I'm only going to send him back $300, which is okay. To say charge for contract time. I'll save this and issue a refund. Now, when I'm looking at David's account, I'll see that refund transaction, and I'll see it as a refund to the credit card. So by contrast, if you refund something to the balance, it's going to say refund balance instead. So whenever there's a question around refunds, one of the first things I'm going to look at is which fee was refunded. I'm going to see that by the blue R next to the fee. So this blue R shows up as soon as I issue a refund telling me, hey, this fee was refunded. And then I'm going to look at where did the refund go? In this case, it went to the CC, which is what I wanted. Now let's take a look though at what happens if I make a mistake on where I am issuing that refund, and then how can I fix that? So let's go back to adjust balance refund. Let's go to refund a fee again. Click refund. This time I'm going to make a mistake. I'm going to refund the rest of it to the balance. I'm going to hit save. Okay, now I'm seeing there's a refund to the balance made here for $1,200. If I refresh the page, I'm going to see David Keeler now has a $1,200 credit balance on his account, shown by the golden color and the parentheses around it. So if I made a balance refund in error when I meant to make a credit card refund, I have an option to undo it if I catch it immediately. What I can do is actually click on the transaction date for the refund to balance. And then we have this button down here, revert refund. So this is combining two of the other adjustments we've already talked about. Revert, which you can all think of as basically an undo button, and a refund. So we're undoing the refund. So I'll click on revert refund. This does tend to be one of the more intricate interactions that can happen. So there may be situations where you click on this to revert a refund, and if the refund has already been applied to other transactions on the account, you might not be able to do this every time. One of the last examples we're going to look at today, though, is a scenario where we can basically unravel a more complicated mistake of this. So stick around for that if you're a bit more of an advanced user and want to see that in action. But I can see right now I was able to revert or undo that mistake to the balance. So now I'm back to a situation where David has paid $1,200 total. He paid $1,500, and then we refunded $300 of that to the credit card. So those are the three different buckets of transactions you're going to see are fees, payments, and refunds. Let's take a look at one more kind of special case of payments that I see people run into and have a lot of questions on. So I'm going to go to another account here. And we're going to look at this adjust balance refund again. So far, we've covered under the adjustment types, we've covered miscellaneous fees, and we've covered refunds. We're going to take a look at the third option here, which is the payment credit. So a payment credit in court reserve, when I'm using this adjustment type, is always going to be adding money to or credit to that member's court reserve account. Again, it's never a way to send money back to a member's credit card or issue a true refund. So under the payment credit options, I have a couple options. I can mark basically a cash or check payment the same as if I was paying it off of a member's account. I can put in a manual adjustment, which is just an actual free credit to the account. So I just want to, give someone won a prize at the club and it was $100 credit on their account. I can use manual adjustment there. And then the last one, which I've already warned about, is the credit card manual, which is going to charge that member's credit card or ACH account and preload money onto their balance ahead of time that they can use to pay for things. So let's issue a manual credit to Andy's account right now and see what happens. I'm going to put it in there for $10. It's not all of his balance. So what happens as soon as I put any type of credit onto a member's account in court reserve is it's automatically going to pay for any unpaid fees, starting with the oldest unpaid fee. So right now in Court Reserve, we don't have a true wallet where you're going to be able to pick exactly which payments or which fees get paid by credit balances. It's just automatically going to apply if there are unpaid fees on the account. And so we can see this older unpaid fee got completely paid. This newer fee here, it was $4,718. The unpaid amount on it is just $4.36 now, because that was what was left over after paying the first fee. So I can see there's a balance credit line here, and then a payment immediately from the credit balance onto the fee. So if you ever see this in your system when issuing a balance credit, just know that these $10 payments here, that doesn't add to $20 worth of credit. We only issued one $10 credit account. It's just that this is marking that it was put on the account as credit. And then this is the actual payment saying a payment was issued towards fees for $10. So if we had put a balance credit on there for $50, you would see balance credit of $50, but then you would only see the payment amount of $14.36 because that was the original balance. If I refresh the page, I can see now Andy's balance is $4.36. All right, so next thing we're going to talk a little bit about is just a bit more about the refunds in Court Reserve, because I know we get a lot of questions around those. So I've been showing you everything from the members billing tab specifically. And I did that because if you're ever unsure where to go to refund someone, you can always go to a members tab. You're going to see all of their fees here, and you can always just click on a fee and click on refund if you need to issue a refund. There are a couple other places in Court Reserve that might generate refunds. So let's talk about those for a second. When a member is signed up for something like a clinic or a class or court time, and then they've paid and that thing gets canceled, that will generate a pending refund in the system. And what that means is that if I go to transactions, refunds, we have a screen here which is going to show all of the pending refunds from all of your different members. So again, this is just people who have paid and then something was canceled for them. Court Reserve generally is not going to automatically refund people when things are canceled. 95% of the time, when something is canceled that is paid for, it's going to immediately go into the pending refunds bucket, and then an admin or a sub-admin with permissions is going to come into the pending refunds tab and then be able to look one by one and either accept or refuse the refund, or in some cases be able to just reschedule the date or the court time instead of having to issue the refund as well. You can see one of the most important columns here is probably the time before. So for any of the clubs that have a refund policy, like you have to cancel within 12 hours, otherwise you don't get your money back, this is the column that you're looking for. You can go to the refunds tab and you can look at how far in advance did this person actually cancel the reservation in order to tell, do I accept their refund or do I refuse? So let's say we do want to accept the refund. I'm getting pretty much the same screen that I got on the members account. Again, the most important thing here is the refund destination. So we've got a credit card, balance, and cash option, and then some refund notes that you can put in. I also have tabs to see what refunds have I accepted in the past and for how much and what was the reason, and then refused refunds as well. And again, for all of these, I can see who was the player, who was it refused by, who was it originally canceled by, and we do have a column for refused reasons as well. Awesome. So really quickly, there are 2 times that the system is going to automatically issue a refund, and it's not going to go to pending refunds. So I wanted to make you guys all aware of that. The first time that the system will automatically issue a refund without it going to pending refunds is when someone has paid for court time and then that reservation gets updated and the price is reduced and then saved. So if I'm editing a reservation, I can see, okay, Andy here, he's paid $10 for this reservation. If I go in here and I say the cost is now $3 instead of $7, and I save these changes, this is automatically going to issue a refund. Now, my clue that it was going to do that, if I'm ever wondering, is this automatically going to issue a refund when editing this reservation, is this due column right here. So if this due amount is negative, that's my clue that the system thinks that based on the new price that I've entered for this reservation, or some other type of edit that I've done to this reservation, we have overcharged this member. And so we're automatically going to issue a refund. If you don't want that to happen, you can always just cancel the reservation instead of editing it. When I cancel a reservation, it's always going to go to the pending refunds tab, and then I will have full control over, am I going to refuse or accept this refund, and where is it going to go? Okay. The second thing that will cause an automatic refund in the system is a very specific setting that we have under our events or clinics. So if I pull an event or clinic up right now, we have the specific option underneath the registrants for a clinic right here at the very end to reschedule. And so this is not rescheduling a date. This is specifically rescheduling a member. And if I click on reschedule, oh, I've already partially rescheduled this person. Let's see. Let's pull up another clinic for just a second here. Yeah, let's go to the open play. So yeah, let's pick on Adam here. If I use reschedule clinic registration and I search for a different event and I click register, if that event costs less than the event that I have signed this player up for currently, or the series of dates that I'm signing them up for total to be less than the series of dates that they're enrolled in right now, the system is going to automatically cover the difference and do an automatic refund. Again, this is just for rescheduling clinic registrations. If I don't want the system to do that, I can always cancel them off of this event and then re-enroll them in the new event. And then if they've paid for the first event, it'll show up in the pending refunds, same as reservations. Now, the automatic refunds are going to go to the player's balance every time unless I have a specific setting checked under my organization settings. So if I go to organization general, there's really two settings that have to do with refunds here. The first one is on refund approval, default the refund to credit card to be checked by default. So that's saying when I go through my refunds tab and I pick my refund destination, what do I want to be the default in that window? If I'm usually making that to the credit card, then I probably want to check this setting and save it. That way credit card is the default option and I have to choose balance rather than credit card if I want to send it to a player's balance. This second one here is the much more extreme setting here. So this second setting says, don't allow refunds to a member balance for credit card payments at all. And if I do that, I will not be able to send a credit card payment back to the balance, even as an admin. This setting will also make it to where your automatic refunds in the system, if they do happen, go back to the member's credit card automatically instead of the member's balance. Now, if I don't have this checked, it'll always go to the member's balance. So I think very few of our clients end up checking this, but for those of you, if you see that setting, just be aware that's how that works. So I want to be aware of that. Okay, so that's some of just the automatic refund questions that I've seen come up from time to time. I think the last thing that I want to cover with you today is just a few examples that I've actually kind of gathered from some of our more experienced users that came in within the past week or two. And I've just kind of generalized the examples a little bit. And I wanted to go through them with you guys and hopefully it'll be really helpful. So The first one I'm going to pull up, I'm going to pull up this account here. And this is, occasionally you will have a scenario where you want to go void a fee and you see this error. Partially paid fees can't be voided. So you are seeing this because there's a fee that's partially paid, but not fully paid on the account. As we were talking about at the beginning when we were discussing fees, void is your way to basically waive a fee that is completely unpaid. But once a fee has been paid, I can't use void anymore. I need to use a revert or a refund. Okay, so what do I do in this scenario? Well, it depends on whether I'm just trying to void the unpaid amount of the fee, or whether I'm also looking to try to issue some type of refund for this fee as well. Generally, what I do in these scenarios is I'm going to click on the amount to pay of the fee, and I'm going to see this override fee amount here. And if I want to essentially void the difference between the fee amount and the paid amount, I'm just going to override this fee amount down to the paid amount. So by doing this step, I'm essentially voiding everything that has not been paid. I'm saying you no longer owe me this money at all. If I click on save, I'll now see the same, I've overridden the fee amount, and now you'll notice the pay void buttons have gone away because this fee is now fully marked as paid. If I want to refund that additional $150 back to the credit card, now it's just a normal refund process for me as well. So I can click on the fee date right here, click on refund, select my refund destination, and hit save. And now I've completely waived and refunded that initial fee that I wasn't able to hit void on. So hopefully that's helpful. I know that one comes up from time to time. Let's look at another one. This is going to involve a report that I think not a whole lot of people know about, but it's definitely useful whenever you have questions from your members around account disputes. So let's say that we heard from this member here, Madison Haynes, and Madison is claiming that she's already paid for her membership due sum. She paid by credit card for her membership dues, but we're not seeing this on her account right now. So the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to go to her billing tab. I'm going to go to all transactions. And I'm going to see, are there any payments on this account? Well, doesn't look like there's any payments on this account right now, but could something else be going on here? Yes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down to transactions, and I'm going to look for the online payments report. So this is where I can see all of the different credit card and e-check transactions that have gone through my payment gateway. And I'll search for the member's last name, let's say, and I'll see there actually is a member here who looks like maybe it was a duplicate account just put in under a different name. So I can click on Maddie Haynes' account and see, oh, there actually is a payment on this account. Looks like a duplicate account was created. Maybe an admin set up one account and she set up the other account. She logged into this account and paid. The login info got mixed up, something like that. It does happen from time to time. So whenever there's a question around what's been paid by credit card, I always think it's a great idea just to go down to this transactions online payments report and pull these. And if you ever need to know what the transaction code for a specific transaction was in your payment gateway, such as SafeSafe or Stripe, you can always pull the transaction code from this online payments if it went through Court Reserve. So I can see date and time of the transaction. Here's a receipt of the transaction with the receipt number if you need that. Here's the last four of the credit card. Here's the transaction code. So very useful report for kind of ironing out those different types of disputes. Last thing that I wanted to show you guys today was a more intricate version of the refund and revert examples that I've seen, I think is the most common sort of mistake that I see just naturally happen on accounts and how you can fix that. So I'm going to go to one final account here. You go to Kyle's account. So we've got a bit more going on here. So whenever you see a pretty complex account, a lot of things happening with the billing, here's a few tips that I found that just helped me to kind of get a clear picture of what's happening. Is the first question I'm always going to ask is, at the end of the day, how much should we be charging this member? What are the actual goods or services that we believe we are still going to be charging them for? And then I'm going to look at the fees on the account, because the fees are the things that are saying you owe me for this. So before I ever look at any of the payments, I'm just looking at the fees. And I'm going to look at this fee here and say, okay, we had got a fee for $29, but that was refunded. Okay, so when I've refunded a fee, the system is subtracting that revenue out of the system. So we've given all of that revenue back somehow, be that balance or credit card. And we've got one other fee on the account that has not been refunded at all. So at the end of the day, we've charged Kyle $29 right here. So let's take a look. Let's say Kyle sends us in a message and says, I originally signed up for one drop-in date, but couldn't make it. We allowed him to reschedule to another date. We refunded the original charge to the balance, and we just gave him that credit towards his next date. But now Kyle is injured and won't be able to make it to the second date. How do I get the money back to Kyle's credit card? So if I look at this billing, I'm going to see this first fee that was down here that we refunded. That was his original date. This second fee up here with the pickleball clinic, this is the one that was paid for by the balance. Now, if I just go into this fee and hit refund, you're going to see I don't have credit card as an option here, because this fee was paid for with the balance transaction. So is there any way to get the money back on Kyle's credit card? Yes, but we'll have to use a couple of the tools that we've talked about up to this point. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to undo this payment to the balance that went towards this fee. So it's the most recent thing. I'm going to start by undoing that. So I'm going to go over here to the balance payment. I'm going to click revert. Now this time when I click on revert, I'm going to see an error that I didn't see the first time, because this is a balance payment. And so if you think about it, a balance payment, if I just hit undo, because Court Reserve automatically applies balance payments to unpaid fees, if we left the fee as unpaid after undoing the payment to the balance, the credit balance would just automatically pay that again. And we wouldn't want that. So for that reason, to keep us from getting locked into a circle of reverting the payment and it just immediately paying the fee again, we have this message here. This is a balance payment. The following fees will be voided automatically upon reverting this payment. So I'm going to hit save, and you're going to see it's going to undo the balance payment. So it's going to credit back Kyle's balance here for a second, and it's going to void that second fee. So I can see that balance payment completely went away, and this fee here is now voided. So Kyle no longer owes us for that anymore, but Kyle does have a $29 credit balance, and we still need to get that credit balance back to Kyle's card. So we've got two more steps here. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to get rid of this payment to the balance as well. So if I go to the refund a balance, I'm going to click revert refund this time. So this is undoing the second step in the chain. When I click revert refund, it's going to get rid of that credit balance and basically make it to where that balance refund never happened. So I'm going to revert the refund. Now I can see the balance has been reverted, We're back to 0 credit balance. So at this point on the account, we're all the way back in time to where the original fee and the original credit card payment was made. So now that we've taken 2 steps back in time, so to speak, all the way back to this, now I'm going to be able to click on this fee and refund it to the credit card. So if I click on the transaction date here and click refund, I can see now I've got this refund destination to the credit card. And again, I'm seeing that destination now because unlike the other fee, which was marked as paid by the balance, this one was marked paid by the credit card. So this transaction is linked to this credit card payment. So that's why I'm able to click on this refund and see credit card as an option. And I could say refunding original clinic and save that. And so with those 3 steps, I was able to step back in time all the way to the point where we were able to undo all of that and actually send the money back to the credit card. So at this point, we would be done. We're seeing, hey, Kyle's account, his credit card has been refunded now. I see a refund to the credit card. His balance is 0. Looking at all of the fees, there's 1 fee that's refunded. The rest of them have been voided. So we have correctly waived all of the different fees for Kyle and given him back the payments that we needed to give him back. So hopefully you guys were following some through all of that. I know that's a very intricate example compared to some of the other ones we were looked at, but hopefully you guys were able to glean just a little bit of how the reverts, the refunds, the payments all interact together, and some of the changes you might need to make to fix errors or questions that come up on members' accounts. So with that, I'm going to pause here for just a second and turn it over to Doug. Doug, if you've got anything that's come in on Q&A that you want to speak to or that we want to just go over with the time that's remaining, we could do that.
I think I've been able to answer most of the questions here. QA, it looks like there's one here from Kristen, if you'll take a look at it real quick. Justin, and I see another question here. Kristen dropped in. We are going to go over some of the reporting in a future webinar, so I do want to mention that. So we won't get too deep into the reporting today, but if you want to look over those questions and see if you have an answer for those, Justin, that would be helpful. I think you've done a good job here explaining a lot of those scenarios. If you have specific questions about the overall process, drop those in QA. I'm happy to answer, or we'll get you an answer. Also, remember, if you have specific questions about any specific things that are happening inside your system, live chat's always available to help you out with that and get you the answer that you need.
Right now, I am impersonating as a super admin, so it's not showing up on my screen, but for everyone else, there'll be a green chat bubble that appears right here next to the Facebook community group. You can just click on that. It'll take you right to live chat. We also have this knowledge base up here where all of our tutorials live. And you can see the live chat bubble is down here as well, which is showing up for me. And if you're more of an email person, you can always email into support@courtreserve.com as well. It goes to exactly the same place, and we'd be happy to help you out there. Yeah, so Bethany's question is, are online payment fees paid by customer or business? If business, are they taken from the bulk deposit, or are they separate withdrawal from business account? So the answer is that it is by the business. So obviously each payment provider has slightly different rates that they're going to charge you, but it should be taken out of the bulk deposit as well. The more of the breakdown of that should be in your actual payment gateway. So everything that we've been talking about here is the Court Reserve side of things, right? Which Court Reserve is doing a lot of the bookkeeping for the day in and day out of the club, but your actual payment gateway is where all of the payment profile information gets saved and encrypted. So if you have questions about exactly what those rates are, what the deposits to your actual bank is when your payment provider is actually going to settle with you, those types of things, my answer is usually going to be that it's best to look in your payment gateway specifically for those questions. We've got another webinar that we're specifically going to be framing towards financial reporting and the biggest reports inside Court Reserve, what they do, how to use them to get the data that you need. What are they good for? Those sorts of things. So basically, if you take a look down this transaction list, we've got so many great reports that our team has put into the system here. So, we could do, feels like almost a whole webinar just on this sales summary report and all the things that it's capable of. So we're going to be doing one webinar around that for all of our accountants out there. And then we're going to be doing another webinar, basically more geared towards the setup of things, like how to set up your costs, and court fees, membership dues, pricing structures, that sort of thing. For people who are looking to make any changes with their setup, that's going to be a great resource.